Pabor-pabor. Pabor-pabor lang ako sa Bisaya pa. Pabor-pabor.
The chair requests the Honorable Member of Parliament, Sheikh Ibrahim Ali, to lead the chamber in the opening prayer.
Taray naman itong isa. Start.
Walang warning, no?
Nag-usap na nga tayo. Bigla siyang kwan. Mahirap na presiding yan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amin ya rabbal alamin.
Congress na kasi yan.
Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Arrahmanir rahim maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim. Ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Allahumma waffiqna Allah lima tuhibbu wa tarda. Allahumma balligh muradana ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim ya Arhamar Rahimin. Allahumma ahina bil iman wa amitna bil iman. Allahumma aslih lana dinana alladhi huwa ismatu amrina wa aslih lana dunyana allati fiha ma'ashuna wa aslih lana akhiratana allati ila imaduna ya Allah. Allahumma rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
We request the members to please remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem and ng Bangsamoro Hymn.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, elas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng pagaw, ay hinatang tulakaw.
Secretariat is there requested to proceed with the roll call.
Honorables Abbas Ahmad, Abbas Haron,
Present.
Zulkarnain, Abbas Basit, Abu Mujib,
Present.
Ajong Rahman Alunto,
Present.
Ahang Abdullah, Alamia Laisa,
Present.
Alauddin Faiz,
May alin.
Ali Ibrahim,
Balik ka lang.
Ali Lanang Junior,
Wow.
Ali Idi,
Kato ay kuwan.
Ali Cesar,
Kato ay muhajirin
Ambol
Ali.
to Suharto.
Di Bangsamoro kuwan. Nagbistara kami.
Ampatuan Baintan, Anayatin Susana, Asmawil Muslima, Balindong Ali Pangalian, Bara Hamid Aminuddin, Basman Ana Tarhata,
Present.
Burahan Abraham, Kandaw Bay Maliha,
Present.
Dandamon Latif Maysara,
Present.
Diamla Musa,
Present.
Dipatuan Safrullah,
Present.
Ibrahim Ahud, Ismail Haji Abdul Aziz,
Present.
Gayak Abdullah,
Present.
Hira Edward, Hashim Abdullah,
Present.
Hasan Hatimil, Iqbal Muhagir,
Present.
Ail Rasul,
Present.
Jajuri Raisa,
Present.
Jakilan Muslimin,
Present.
Karun Bainun, Lidasan Mussolini,
Present.
Loong Don Mustafa, Lorena Husi, Makakuha Abdul Rauf, Makapaar Abdullah, Makaraya Jamil, Makasalong Marjani, Mangudadato Khadafi,
Present. Present.
Mantawil Malik, Mastura Datutukaw,
Ini apa saja dulu kan?
Mastura Siti Syahra, Mawalil Amil Bahar, Pak Abdul Wahab,
Secretary to read the next proposed resolution.
Secretary General is so requested.
Proposed resolution number 523, a resolution urging the Ministry of Basic, Higher and Technical Education or MBHTE in coordination with the Bangsamoro Youth Commission to implement programs to address historical mis, mal and disinformation among the youth. Principal author, MP Amil Bahar S. Mawalil. Co-authors, MPs Liza M. Alamia, Baintan A. Ampatuan, Don Mustafa A. Loong, Rasul Y. Mitmag Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, Abraham T. Burahan, and Siti Shahara I. Mastura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Basic, Higher and Technical Education.
There's a motion that PR 523 be referred to the Committee on Basic and Technical Education. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 523 is hereby referred to the Committee on Basic Higher and Technical Education.
Mr. Speaker, may we proceed to item number 8, first stage of bills. May we request the Secretary General to read the first Parliament bill, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is already requested.
BTA Parliament Bill number 128, an act establishing a level 1 general hospital in the municipality of Sitangkay, province of Tawi-Tawi, and appropriating funds therefore. Principal author is MP Amil Bahar S. Mawalil. Co-authors MPs Liza M. Alamia, Baintan A. Ampatuan, Don Mustafa A. Loong, Rasol Y. Mitmog Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, Abraham T. Burahan, and Siti Shahara I. Mastura.
Mr. Speaker, this is a private member bill. Any member of the Parliament would signify their interest as co-authors. They may do so by upping the paper that was distributed before this session, Mr. Speaker.
I'd like to put in record that I'd like to be associated with this particular measure.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Please
May
proceed,
we
Majority
again
Leader.
request the Secretary General to read the next proposed bill, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is so requested.
BTA Parliament Bill number 130, an acting the Bangsamoro Nutrition Council in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, providing for its mandate, powers, and functions, appropriating funds therefore, and for other purposes. Principal author is MP Amil Bahar S. Mawalil. Co-authors MPs Liza M. Alamia, Baintan A. Ampatuan, Don Mustafa A. Loong, Rasul Y. Mitmog Jr., Suharto M. Ambuludto, Abraham T. Burahan, and Siti Shahara I. Mastura.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, this is a private member bill. Again, any members of the Parliament would like to be a co-authors of this particular measure. They may do so by fill up the paper that was distributed before this session, Mr. Speaker.
Again, Majority Leader, I'd like to put on record that I'd like to be associated with BTA Parliament Bill 130 as a co-author. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 9, Mr. Speaker. This is second stage of bills on BTA Parliament Bill number 102. May I request to recognize, respectfully recognize the principal author, MP Saprola Dipatuan, to deliver his sponsorship speech, Mr. Speaker.
Distinguished gentleman from Ganasi, MP Safrula M. Dipatuan is recognized to deliver his authorship speech.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader, and my courtesies to all the honorable MPs present in this chamber and those in the Zoom. I rise before you as main sponsor of this proposed bill, number 102, entitled An Act Upgrading the Hospital from Level 1 and bed capacity
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Wait na lang natin siguro.
Sige, sige.
Session resume. Session resume.
Yes, Mr.
Yes, we apologize to the gentleman from Ganasi who was delivering his speech before we were cut off.
Yes.
Apologies. There seems to be a problem with our connection here in the plenary. So again, we would like to recognize him again to continue with his authorship speech. The distinguished
This is a resolution for the protection and security of the Bangsamoro people. Our national and regional laws provide policy direction to guide us on the necessary steps that we have to adopt. As an example, it shall establish by law a general hospital system to serve the health requirements of its people, to ensure that the individual basic right to life shall be attainable through the prompt intervention of excellent and affordable medical services. The Bangsamoro government shall protect and promote the right to health of the people and instill health consciousness among them. It shall also uphold the people's right to have access to essential goods, health, and other social services that promote their well-being. The Parliament shall enact appropriate legislation towards this end, unquote. The action, therefore, of this representation is in pursuance of the legal mandate prescribed by law. On a personal note, as member of Parliament and Chairman of the Committee on Health. It is my dream to modernize all hospitals under BARM, as I believe that this is the most realistic, practical, and long-term way to improve the poor health care delivery prevailing in our region. This will also be part of the most strategic responses of BARM to confront the COVID-19 pandemic, which we don't expect to be over soon, considering the emergence of new and highly transmissible strains. The Balindong Municipal Hospital is a government hospital that was created by virtue of Batas Pambansa Bilang 420 that was approved on June 1, 1983. It started operating 34 years ago in 1984 as a 10-bed capacity level 1 municipal hospital. Although it is a municipal hospital, it is operating as a district hospital serving 6 catchment municipalities, namely Balindong, Tugaya, Bacolod, Calawi, Madalam, Madamba, and my hometown, Ganasi, with a total population of 153,899. This results to overcrowding and congestion inside the hospital, overworked employees, and poor hospital services. The lack of ICU facilities is the main reason why the Balindong Municipal Hospital cannot play a significant role in the BARM's COVID-19 pandemic response. The MOE of the hospital is so small that without the income from PhilHealth reimbursements, hospital operation can hardly be sustained. Unfortunately, our income from PhilHealth started to dwindle since the onset of the pandemic. It continues to slope down as more patients shun hospitalization due to fear that they may catch the virus in the hospitals. Since the time it was established, the Balindong Municipal Hospital was never upgraded, allegedly due to lack of funds. This in a way is a form of injustice suffered by our people under successive past administrations. And in this, I am appealing to you, Mr. Speaker, especially to the Honorable Interim Chief Minister and to all my colleagues in this august chamber to stand for the right of our people and support the immediate passage of this proposed legislation, which will redound to the welfare and well-being of BARM constituents. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Di Patuan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Health and the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion that BTA Parliament Bill number 102 be referred to the Committee on Health and to the Committee on Budget and Finance. There any objection? It has been seconded. BTA Parliament Bill 102 is hereby referred to these two committees.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed now to item number 12. This is for the day. The first resolution to be deliberated and discussed in this session, Mr. Speaker, is proposed resolution number 497. The principal authors are Rasul Mitmog, and the one who would like to defend this resolution is MP Baintan ng Patuan, Mr. Speaker. May we respectfully recognize MP Baintan and MP Rasul Mitmog if he's in Zoom, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable members of the parliament, the lady from Maguindanao, MP Ampatuan, and the gentleman from Cotabato City, either of them who would like to deliver authorship speech, they are recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we request that the principal author, Attorney Rasmit will deliver his authorship speech, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Lumbabayabao and Cotabato City is recognized to deliver his authorship speech on PR 497.
Mr. Speaker, colleagues, this resolution, we are thankful for the majority floor leader for considering it as a simple resolution because the idea is such, Mr. Speaker. The goal here is there's this resolution, there's this DBM circular at the national level that would increase the budget for the PS or the allocation for the increase of pay for the nurses. And I believe that our nurses, being the frontliners in our area, deserve such increase, Mr. Speaker. Thus, this resolution is just a reminder to the MOH and the Ministry of Finance that they at least consider this increase in the pay of our nurses. Because they have given so much in this time of pandemic. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Do we open the period of
Yes,
debate?
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of debate and interpellation.
Period of debate interpellation on PR 497 is hereby open. Any member?
None?
I'd like to ask the proponents just an inquiry. Would this affect our civil service code or the administrative code? Would that in any way affect any provisions of those two mandatory codes?
None, Mr. Speaker. It will not affect the codes that we have. It's limited to the budget, Mr. Speaker. The allocation for the PS, the increase of the pay of our nurses. I'm also raising this issue, Mr. Speaker, because eventually in the future, there will be increases in the national government for the same work that we have here in the BARM, but potentially we will not have increases in the BARM. During the ARMM, Mr. Speaker, we already have that situation. So it's best na our colleagues in the Finance Committee, Finance, Mr. Speaker, to look also at this situation in the future, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Any members?
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Taraca, Tamparan, Masyo, in Marawi City, distinguished member MP Tago, is recognized.
Yes, the resolution speaks of the implementation of DBM circular. Is that the contents of the resolution, may I know from the main sponsor, Mr. Speaker?
MP Ras.
MP Ras, narinig mo?
Please unmute yourself, MP Ras.
The main idea of the resolution, Mr. Speaker, is for the MOH and the MFPM to be aware of the resolution and consider this resolution, particularly the DBM circular, in our budget for BEA, Mr. Speaker. It is in no sense unbuilt. It's just making them aware. Making them aware, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. For the education of those concerned, kasi the resolution speaks of particular DBM circular. For the information of those concerned, ano yung sinasabi ng DBM circular that the MFBM and the MOH should implement?
There's that particular section in that circular where there's an increase in the pay of the nurses, Mr. Speaker.
Increase? Increase,
Yes.
wala sa circular o hindi sinasabi anong percentage na increase?
May sinabi po Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, trying to open my circular. Hinahanap ko po kanina, hindi ko po makita ngayon. Pero at least a substantial increase, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Yes, kaya ko tinatanong Mr. Speaker kasi tama nga naman yung resolutions. Although we are on the BARM now, autonomous tayo, pangalawa na naka-block lang tayo, but we should be mindful of national policies. So dapat sumunod tayo sa mga circular, especially para sa karapatan ng ating mga empleyado. Sundan natin ang mga scholar. So that's why I am telling you, because mag-budget time, dapat tutukan natin yan na masundan yung mga increases, especially our health workers na sila ngayon ang front line to defeat the COVID, na kailangan matulungan natin sila. Dapat nga more than pa. May resolution din si MP Baintan no, na may dagdag na mga allowance. So dapat more than pa. So in view of that, kaya gusto ko maliwanagan yung circular eh. Kasi yung iba, with your respect, hindi alam yung anong napapalop sa circular. Basta lang sinabing circular, baka hindi natin alam. So wala pala dyan, hindi mo mag-gets dyan. So I am very supportive of that resolution. So ang ibig sabihin nito, Madam, Mr. Speaker, if we approve this resolution, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Management, as well as the MOH, should include the salaries and allowances of our health workers in accordance with the DBM circular. We should follow what the DBM circular has stated, Mr. Speaker. Ganun po yun, Mr. Sponsor, Mr. Speaker. Ganun po ba yun?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, yan yung idea na gusto natin ma-achieve. Pero since this is a simple resolution, at the end, this is a reminder and also a reminder sa ating pong lahat na there's such a circular, and hopefully as a body, as a parliament, pati din yung mga institutions natin like MFBM and MOH, sana sabay-sabay natin suportahan yung increase. There's also a reminder sa ating pong lahat finance natin, pero sana makita na sa kabutihan din naman po ito.
That's all, Mr. Speaker, and willing to be co-author if the sponsors accept me as one of the authors of this mission. Thank you very much.
We would love to, Mr. Speaker. We would love to.
Thank you. We'd like to request MP Ras, can you furnish the Parliament a copy of that part of the circular that is under the subject matter of this discussion, circular number 2021-2 of DBM, so that we would have a hard copy of that circular.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to inquire again, are we upgrading the salary? We are upgrading the salary grade of nurses, or is the circular, since we don't have that copy here, is the circular only mentions about increasing the salaries, or does it also mean upgrading the salary grade of nurses?
Actually, it's
because we can increase. Yes.
Actually, the circular provides, Mr. Speaker, on upgrading the salary grade of the nurses. However, our resolution will not immediately make that effect, because the resolution, since it's a simple resolution and at the end of the day it's a resolution, it is a reminder to the institutions like MOH and MFBM to at least compute, and so that in the given time, for example, during the budget period, we can implement the changes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Again, the request is to furnish this Parliament a copy of that particular circular from DBM. Thank you. Do you have a further manifestation?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may, with the indulgence of the principal author, Attorney Mo, I read the circular 2021-2 dated August 25, 2021, addressed to all heads of departments, bureaus, offices, and agencies of the national government, including state universities and colleges, government-owned and controlled corporations, local government units, and other concerned, and all others concerned, subject modification of nurse positions. And under item 5.0, Speaker, it enumerated here 5.0, modification in the position attributes of nurse positions. The position attributes of the following classes of nurse positions are hereby modified effective June 1, 2021. If I be selected of the enumeration here, Mr. Speaker, prior to the budget circular, Nurse 1 has a salary grade 11. In per directive as of June 1, 2021, it remains as Nurse 1 with salary grade 15. But for Nurse 2 with salary grade 15, it will be elevated to Nurse 2 with salary grade 16. I think it's uploaded now on the screen, Mr. Speaker. So for information of Mr. Speaker, this is the modification that we are talking about, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. We would ask again the authors so to furnish us a copy of this so we can attach this to the resolution once we submit that to NFP and MOA. Somebody was trying to be, I think,
Yes,
DS Omar. He wants to be recognized. The Deputy Speaker, gentleman from Cotabato City, MP Omar Sema, you recognized, Your Honor.
I did not make any manifestation, Your Honor. I will yield to MP Eddie Ali.
MP Eddie Ali.
Okay, so from tawi-tawi, MP Professor Eddie Ali, you recognized. MP Eddie Ali.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, yeah, you recognized MP Ali.
Yeah, as a parliamentary protocol, may I ask our distinguished Mr. Speaker, our distinguished proponent, if he accedes to one clarificatory question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, since our resolution is urging the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Management and MOH to ensure the proper implementation of the circular, may I know, Mr. Speaker, if there was or there is any information from the concerned ministries that this resolution that this circular is not yet being implemented?
Not yet, Mr. Speaker. Because Mr. Speaker, the idea was we filed this bill, then we were thinking that it would be discussed during the committee, but right now it's being discussed on the business of the day, Mr. Speaker. But since we are in the business of the day and we are plenary, Mr. Speaker, maybe we can ask our committee in that relation, because this is a very recent circular, Mr. Speaker, and we tried to file this resolution because we know that the executive side of the budgeting is already finished, and maybe they were not able to implement this position, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm raising that question because while we urge these ministries, it may be possible, Mr. Speaker, because the circular was dated August 25, and it may have already reached them, and they may have acted on this already. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, I support this resolution. I was just concerned if it has been implemented already, so it makes urging them, not anymore proper because they're actually implementing it. So that's why I was raising that question, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Our proponent. So kung wala po tayong information, anyway, the ministries, the Ministry of Finance, Budget and Management and MOH may actually react to our resolution that they have been that they are actually implementing this already, or they have already included this in the 2022 budget. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, are you directing your question, Your Honor, to the author? Please, MP Ras, can you respond?
Of course, the proponent, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
MP
Speaker,
Ras.
we already responded that we have noticed that the executive has already finished their budget call, Mr. Speaker, when we filed this one. That's why we tried to fast track this resolution and file it so that during our budget, we can be sure that this resolution has been considered and included in the budget process, Mr. Speaker. Because I know, Mr. Speaker, that the executive is almost finished in their budget process.
So that's all, Mr. Speaker. If our intention is for these ministries to include the needed budget, then I would like, Mr. Speaker, if our proponent agrees, I would like to be associated with this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
We would love to, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, MP Muhagir to be followed by MP Bumin Mujahid, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the distinguished Minister of MBTHE, MP Muhagir Iqbal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. We are talking here of nurses, and everybody, I think everybody understands that not only the Ministry of Health has nurses, but also including the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education. So my question is that if we extend this kind of, I would call it privilege or something to that effect, are we in the understanding that it can also be extended to the nurses serving in the health and nutrition unit of the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education? That's my question, because we have more than 100 nurses serving here at the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education. So kasama pa sila o that is limited only to the nurses serving under the Ministry of Health?
Mr. Speaker, yung pampo natin, yung circular po natin is asking for all nurses sa buong government. Ibig sabihin potentially pwede pong ma-include yung kwan. Actually, included po yung mga nurses natin kasi nagtaas po tayo ng salary grade for all nurse 1 na position. So yan po yung reason, Mr. Speaker. Syempre na-highlight lang po natin yung MOH. Pero at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, si Ministry of Finance po talaga ang may call niyan. They can review the circular and they can advise yung mga ministries natin if they need to increase yung budget nila sa PS for this one, Mr. Speaker. That's the reason we are urging and calling them their attention to this circular, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, additional input po. Well, this is good news. No? It will be extended to the nurses, not only to the Ministry of Health, but even to the nurses serving under the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education. This is good news for them. I hope Parliament will agree to the passage of this resolution. And I'm also happy to say here that I wish to be part of this resolution. I want to co-author this resolution. Thank you.
We would love to, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Basilan, MP Mujahid, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, I think the resolution, Mr. Speaker, is very, timing for, from my end as somebody who approached me about it, Mr. Speaker. Parang nagko-complain o kaya ask for help na kung paano ma-implement itong kasi our nurses they are aware about it, about the circular numbers, no? So parang nakita nila hindi na implement. So with that, parang nagusto nila talaga ng magpatulong sa atin. I think just 2 weeks ago na may dumating sa akin, nag-complain po. So that's why, Mr. Speaker, I just want to be part of this resolution, Mr. Speaker, and this resolution, Mr. Speaker, be forwarded to all our LGUs, Mr. Speaker, for them to really implement the circular number, budget circular number, Mr. Speaker. So yun po lang, Mr. Speaker, if our principal author will agree, I always Mr. Speaker to be part of the co-author of this resolution. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
We would accept, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Your Honors.
Yes,
No
Mr.
further
Speaker,
questions.
I move to close period with interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to close the period of interpellation and debate on PR 97. Is there any objection? Hearing none, period of debate, interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I have an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of amendment and I further move for the approval of this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
There's an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of amendment and proceed with the adoption of PR 497. Is there any objection? Motion duly seconded. PR 497 is hereby adopted. Proceed,
Okay,
Majority
Mr.
Leader.
Speaker, we are now on proposed resolution number 499, Mr. Speaker. I move to open interpellation and debate.
The period of interpellation and debate on PR 499. There's a motion to open that. Is there any objection? The period of debate and interpellation is hereby open. Rasul, can you hear us?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed, MP Rasul, if you have an authorship speech or a manifestation you would like to deliver before the Parliament.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, the idea of this resolution in relation to the landmarks and gates, before I don't believe in this kind of programs and projects because I think it's a waste of finances or resources. But considering that the BARM is a very new entity and it has new geographical configuration, and there are areas, especially in Lanao and Maguindanao, and also when you cross the islands for the ports, it would be nice to be greeted with something familiar that will remind us of that this is the Bangsamoro area. It is not just reminding ourselves that we are in the Bangsamoro area, because there is also an improvement in the BOL. It says that in the Bangsamoro area, Sharia can be implemented, and it can even be implemented for criminal laws, and it can pwede po tayo magpakulong up to 6 months. Then also in this area, halal is a premium. So it would be great, it would be good that we can already inform our people that they are in the Bangsamoro area, while at the same time encourage these markers to be forms of tourism medium that will invite people into our area. Yan po yung purpose niyan, Mr. Speaker. Kaya po na meron tayong ganung klaseng resolution. Salamat po.
Thank you. Has the honorable author contemplated on including the Bureau of Cultural Heritage to coordinate with these two ministries in putting up these signages or the markings, cultural markings in different areas within the BARM? Has he contemplated on that, the participation of BCH? Empiras?
Our contemplation was for the MPW and the Tourism Office, Trade and Investment to be coordinating with one another, Mr. Speaker, but that's a very good idea that BCH, so that the theme or the features of the marker can also be culturally responsible. That would be very helpful, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Empiras. Any interpellation? The gentleman from Sulu, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Amir Mawalil, is recognized. We are happy to see you again in the Parliament, MP Mawalil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is not an interpellation. Quick rejoinder to the statement of MP Rasa. We believe that this is a very good piece of measure that will promote our culture, our cultural artifacts, Mr. Speaker. And we also believe that this time of pandemic is the right time for us to build cultural infrastructure that will promote our identity as a Bangsamoro people. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move that we terminate the period of interpellation and debate.
So, would you support Majority Leader the motion to...
Mr. Speaker, I move to the period of debate and interpellation.
Thank you.
O saan niyo i-address yung resolution na yan? May ano from the proponent, Mr. Speaker?
We are addressing the resolution, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Public Works and Highways and also the MPIT, but mainly MPW, because in the end, they are the ones building structures. And considering, Mr. Speaker, this is just a resolution, an expression of our idea. We're hoping that the MPW can bring this up during the cabinet meetings and inform the cabinet that this is a good idea from the Parliament, so that they can plan for this, Mr. Speaker, as a cabinet.
Pwede ba, Mr. Speaker, with the indulgence of the sponsor, ilagay sa resolution na it will be the MPW that will implement in close coordination or collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism and the Historical Institute or the Bureau of Cultural Heritage. Pwede ba ilagay na isama dun sa kon para klaro mag-implement diyan, para hindi hanging, para hindi
Yes,
para hindi kwan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are very open to that. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is also my request to the gentleman, to the principal author, to include BCH. Any further? Also, there's a standing motion to close the period of debate, interpellation. Is there an objection? It has been seconded. Period of debate and interpellation on PR 499 is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendment.
Period of amendment is open.
May we respectfully request MP Tago, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Tamparan, Taracamasio, and Marawi City, MP Tago, you're recognized for your amendment.
Yun na lang.
What's yun na lang?
Paano sa MP Rasmate Bag, saan pwedeng ilagay dito?
Under the resolution clause, Mr. Speaker, we can immediately down po at the last resolution clause. Sa resolution clause po. Yeah. Further that the Ministry of Works will encourage to build in coordination with MTIT and BCH po.
Ito nandito para sa resolve further. In the resolve further. Oo. Hindi sa resolve further. Sa resolve further.
Baba po.
Resolve further, baba.
Secretariat, pa-include na lang dyan, maski nakalagay lang dyan muna NBCH para for subject to style po later. Makuha natin yung tama. Ayan po.
So, is the proposal acceptable to the author?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So-
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendment.
Is there a motion to close the period of amendments? When seconded, period of amendment is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval and adoption of this proposed
Second.
resolution.
PR 499 be adopted as amended. Any objection? It has been seconded. PR 499 is hereby adopted as amended.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to proposed resolution 517. I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
Period of interpellation and debate on proposed resolution number 517 is hereby open. Again, we like to recognize the principal authors of this measure. Any of them would wish to deliver an authorship speech before the Parliament, we recognize the following principal authors: MP Mitmag, Alamia, Ambuludto, Ampatuan, Loong, Ismael, and Mawalil.
Mr. Speaker.
Any members who would like to ask or inquire from these authors? The lady from Tugaya, the distinguished member of parliament, Attorney Maysara Damdaman Latif, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, can we flash on the screen?
Secretariat is requested to flash on the screen the content of PR 517. MP Damdaman Latif, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'd like to ask the principal authors, what kind of support are we asking from the MBHT as well as the HRC and MPOS and MILG?
Any of the principal authors, maybe the ones who are here present in the plenary? We have MP Mawalil and MP Baintan, so that we would have we will be has a stable and thorough discussion. So MP Mawalil or MP Baintan? So there won't be any disconnection in the Zoom para continuous po yung discussion natin. The lady from Maguindanao, MP Baintan, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Based on the resolution, Mr. Speaker, we can stand any appropriate support. We encourage the appropriate ministries and offices, including the academy, to be extended with the appropriate support in order to bring justice to the families of the slain students, Mr. Speaker. In that case, Mr. Speaker, what can be done is based on the mandate of the ministry and offices. They can work with the Mindanao State University in order to find ways and mechanisms to further the investigation and to finally bring justice to the families of the slain students.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because I understand that there are 4 different agencies that the resolution wishes to tap and ask for support. So if we just say appropriate support, would that not be very generic, considering that the end all and be all of this resolution is to find justice?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I think the real intention here is to find ways and means in order to fast track the solution to the or to bring justice to the families of the slain students. Meaning to say there is no exact formula or measures, but what is encouraged here is for those institutions or ministries and offices that are mentioned to talk together, work on this particular issue, give focus so that we can help to the families of the victims, Mr. Speaker.
So in that case, Mr. Speaker, for the Ministry for Basic, Higher and Technical Education, what support are we asking them to give to the just to give justice to the victims?
You know, Mr. Speaker,
Zinan and Hamza.
MSU can work very closely with the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education, specifically those handling the Bureau of Higher and Technical Education, find ways and be updated on the processes of the investigation. And if there's a way that we could help the families, or if there are support that the MBHC could extend in order to help fast track the problem as far as MSU is concerned, then I think it's part of the process that should be undertaken by both institutions, Mr. Speaker.
Let me may I just clarify, no? In the second last line of the resolving clause, it states here that the MBHT is requesting to support, no, in bringing justice to the family of students. Does that mean legal assistance? Does that mean in what way do we intend to provide support?
Mr. Speaker, I think we have to find out first the problem. We know that there were 2 students that were slain, and in this case, there are ongoing investigation, Mr. Speaker. And through coordinative effort between the institutions that were mentioned here, we can help fast track the process. And the support could come in a way that whatever is in the mandate of MBHTE, for example, with regards to its oversight function with the institutions under it, that can be exercised in this case, Mr. Speaker, in order to help the process and find a solution and bring justice to the families of the slain students, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. MP, may damdam, please.
Yes, that was my question. How about the Human Rights Commission? What support are we asking from the Human Rights Commission?
Mr. Speaker, the Human Rights Commission plays a very important role, especially in this kind of situation, Mr. Speaker, because based on their mandates, it's actually the human rights side of it that should be looked into, and therefore there is really a need for them to come out with their own investigation as an independent body, so that they could recommend to the appropriate to the Office of the Chief Minister and even to the Parliament on possible measures that can be undertaken in order to prevent any possible similar cases that might happen later on.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because there was a mention here about the BHRC being the children ombud. What do we mean by this? Why did we include this in the said resolution?
I think, our minority floor leader, being a lawyer in this case, would further explain on this particular whereas, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished lady from Basilan, a good minority leader, MP Alamia, please proceed and respond to the question of MP Damdaman Latif.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues in as co-authors of this resolution. The BHRC, or Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, is mentioned here as having a function, a mandate. Actually, part of its mandate, overall mandate, is to promote human rights, protect human rights, and also preserve the rights of people. And as children ombud, which means that the BHRC acts as the children ombud for the entire Bangsamoro, similar to the Commission on Human Rights at the national level acting as the children ombud for the entire country. It only means that in cases of issues that are faced by children where their rights are trampled upon, their interests of the children, their status and making sure that these are promoted and are protected, the BHRC has a mandate on this. It's part of its responsibility. In the case of these two minors, two students from Lanao, from MSU, and they come from Taraca and Baloy towns in Lanao del Sur. Although they are in college, Mr. Speaker, the BHRC still has its own mandate, still has a mandate to protect minors, the children, and everyone in general, Mr. Speaker. And as part of its mandate to investigate, it's not just to bring justice to those who were killed, but also to make sure that other children, other students of state universities and other schools or higher education institutions, that their rights are protected, that they are secured, and that they're able to coordinate with other agencies, government agencies, including law enforcement agencies, to make sure that the rights of these students are protected, Mr. Speaker. Similarly, the MBHTE, as mentioned by MP Bayintanang Patuan, part of this ministry is the ministry, the sector on higher education and also on technical education. And because MSU, although it's not part of the entire system of the BARM and it has its own charter, still it is within the jurisdiction of the BARM. And so MBHTE, upon proper coordination, would also be able to provide assistance with the general aim of promoting and safeguarding the welfare and interests of the students. And finally, both the two agencies, Ministry of Public Order and Safety and the Ministry of Interior and Local Government, both of these agencies are in charge of public safety, coordination with local government units, coordination with law enforcement agencies, also for the purpose of maintaining the safety of the people, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it would appear that this resolution seeks to create an interagency, interministry task force that will coordinate with the Mindanao State University system in finding ways on how to seek justice, resolve the murders of these two helpless students from the Mindanao State Universities. So it is my opinion, Mr. Speaker, that in the resolution itself, so that the effort would not be uncoordinated, that an interagency task force be created by the Parliament consisting of these mentioned ministries in order to help the Mindanao State University put justice to whoever is the perpetrator of this dastardly act that we condemn as one of the highest, in the highest form, because these are students whose rights are protected, to be created by this Parliament. So that would be my amendment, Mr. Speaker, during the period of amendment.
Thank you, MP Maysara. You,
Mr. Speaker.
I think that there was no question in that. That's a final
Mr.
statement.
Speaker.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker.
the honorable gentleman from Sulu, Deputy Speaker Nabiltan. Sir, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have some the same observation with MP Maysara. It seems that it wants to involve all agencies. And as mentioned earlier by MP Bayintan, it just want to investigate to seek justice. Why don't we allow some agencies, one or two agencies, just to coordinate and that have the main function of investigation, whether national or regional, para po doon lang tayo muna makita natin, sila may investigative function. I don't think these agencies have that investigative expertise to ferret out the truth. So, pwede sila mag-assist on the side for some info. Pero to involve so many agencies in this I am not against the seeking of justice or dispensing justice to the victims. I am for dispensing justice. Pero parang it goes to several branches or different direction. So I don't know if the suggestion of MP Maysara will suit the port.
MP Pantuan.
Yeah, I think whereas number 3, there's an acknowledgement that there's an ongoing investigation being done to Brigadier General Eden Ugali, Director of Police Regional Office of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. There's an ongoing investigation. The DI here is the ministries and offices, the Human Rights Commission for the matter, and the other MIMG not function as the investigative agencies for matter, Mr. Speaker. What we are encouraging here is for them in the process could help the police investigation are ongoing, and if there is a way that they can push for the speedy investigation, because these are institutions where this particular case falls. It's actually a concerted effort, and I do agree with MP Maysara that this is a collaboration of some appropriate ministries and offices, but very specific according to the resolution here, the powers and the functions cited, and we build on these powers and functions in responding to this particular case, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please proceed. The gentleman from Maimbong, the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Anyway, yung una kasi sinabi ni Bayintan, MP Bayintan, my sister Bayintan, is to allow these agencies to assist. Pero meron din sinasabi, objective is to ferret out the truth. Bakit hindi natin hinintay yung result ng investigation para meron tayong pupuntahan kung yung human rights naman on its own can investigate this even without the call. Pero para sa akin kasi parang nangunguna ka na, nandun na lahat, tapos parang you're still awaiting the investigation of Eden Ugali. So unless we don't really trust the agency conducting the investigation, pero ako sa personal ko, sa tingin ko dapat mabigyan ng chance muna ang investigative agency conducting the investigation. Do we know what the result of the investigation, if you have any information, MP Bayintan?
Mr. Speaker, we don't have the updated information as to the status of the investigation, Mr. Speaker. But what the resolution is trying to come up, Mr. Speaker, is an effort of the Bangsamoro government in looking at this particular case, because these are young youth who are studying in an institution which is supposed to be a safe space. And things like this is very alarming, since the situation as it happened, Mr. Speaker, is not very good in the eyes of our neighbors and our non-Muslim communities, that things like this happen in an institution where these students are supposed to be safe, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, there is a need really to look into this without even waiting for the result of the investigation. Pwede namang magsama, pwede namang usap-usap para makatulong tayo. Yun yung nga rin ng solution.
I think just to satisfy the inquiry of the gentleman from Sulu, Deputy Speaker Tan, I think ang SOCO has already started the investigation day when the murder took place. Definitely, I believe the perpetrators or suspects have yet to be identified and have yet to be arrested, and that is the current status of this particular case. That I believe there was no identification as of today, and they are currently currently coordinating with the provincial office of Lanao del Sur to identify first the culprits. No, so that is the sad state of this particular case right now. DS Tan.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please proceed. Please proceed.
Kung sa ako lang, kailangan matapos talaga investigation kasi yung perception may be correct or may be wrong. Perceptions are not truth. Perception can be correct and can be false. Because people see things differently at different angles. So unless you have something concrete, a result of an impartial investigation, then I think it will free us from any bad perceptions. As correctly said by my sister MP Baintan, this is supposed to be a safe haven, but no place is safe actually in any part of this world, of the place where we live. But and parang may dugo ka lang na halimbawa MPOS, merong ganon function. Ang MBHT, a main function ng MBHT is to supervise education, not to monitor or oversight is over the performance of state university.
I know. I'm about to recognize MP Rasul Mitmag before we recognize Minister Iqbal and MP Eddie Ali and MP Popitago. I think that is a response to the question or the manifestation of DS Tan. MP Ras being one of the authors, please respond.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the resolution, one of its note that all the institutes the bar help one another from the lowest level to the highest level. We have recognized, Mr. Speaker, that when the shooting happened and resulted to the killings of two students, the local government and the police immediately acted, and so did MSU, Mindanao State University. Hindi naman sila nagpabaya, Mr. Speaker. They immediately engaged the next day yung mga students. What we are calling here for this resolution is we are not the ones primarily responsible, but we are just asking na our institutions will be very much open to assist yung local units natin, pati yung mga institutions natin like the schools. Bakit po simple support, appropriate support yung binibigay natin? Kasi alam naman natin hindi investigation yung sa MBHTE, pero dahil siya may regulatory functions sa mga colleges pati universities, what it can do is it can release memos in relation to yung sinasabi nila against dun sa culture of silence. Yan kasi yung kalaban na natin. This is not the first killings inside the compound of MSU, or this will not be the last. So hopefully this will be the last. Pero ang problem kasi natin is yung culture natin sa buong BARM of silence in relation to killings like this. Then second, Mr. Speaker, BCH alam naman na Bangsamoro Human Rights, alam naman natin the moment may isang buhay na nawala, immediately it's their function. Ang mas malaking role po dito, Mr. Speaker, would be MILG and MPOS kasi sa pagdating sa PPOC at RPOC, they can follow up what is the status of this investigation. This is important for the region, and we hope this will never happen. So maski na ganung level yung interaction natin, Mr. Speaker, it's really big kasi alam ng tao na we are concerned about this. So okay din na may call for an investigative body, pero for the meantime, Mr. Speaker, hindi pa naman umaakyat yung mga local government units natin ng tulong. Sinasabi lang natin that the BARM is proactive and is very much willing to support kung anong kaya niyang masupport. Ganun lang po yung direction ng ating resolution. Sana makatulong po sa pag-intindi nung intention ng resolution.
Thank you. Minister Iqbal, you're recognized, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Well, hindi naman sa ayaw namin kumapel sa Ministry of Higher and Technical Education. Especially yung issue ay mga estudyante na dalawa, pinas lang. Meron kaming general supervision and regulatory function sa mga higher institutions. So we can rest assure everybody that to the extent of our ability, and extent of the ability of the ministry, we need to extend our utmost cooperation para yung krimen na yan ay hindi na dapat makuha. Pero ang resolution nagsasabi po na yung justice seeking po ang one of the main objectives of the resolution is to find a way para magkaroon po ng justisya yung pagkamatay po yung dalawa na estudyante sa Mindanao State University. Maganda po yan at kami po ay isa sa mga kasamahan namin sa Parliament na sila ang nagiging author ng resolution na ito. At pangalawa, tama yung sinasabi ni MP Rasmit Jr. na dapat kung may nangyari na masama, kailangan itaas natin ang pulis natin. Kasi pag silent lang tayo, if we are all silent, that means that we are accusing to the crime that is being committed. But we have a limitation here. Ang limitation natin ay sa mandate ng Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education tungkol sa bagay na mangyari yung justisya. Maybe, tulong, pwede, whatever is possible, pwede kami tulong, pero wala ho sa mandato po namin na kami po ang mangunguna para magkaroon po ng justisya. At pangalawa po, while we are willing to cooperate to the extent of our ability, we need to understand that as legislator or as lawmaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament Parliament, kung ano man ang pagkakita natin, especially po ang nature ng isang bagay, criminal po, wala ho tayong jurisdiction yan. At saka limitado lang po tayo doon sa kung sakali magkakaroon po tayo ng ganyan mga hearing, consultation, etc. It's only for in aid of legislation po. So ito ang atin dito. Siguro, we can cooperate, we can extend everything possible na kaya po namin. But I don't think the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education should be para makita po natin at mahanap po natin ang justisya sa pagkamatay ng mga estudyante sa Mindanao State University po. Ito po ang akin. And then the other ministries that are concerned, for instance, Ministry of Safety and Ministry of Interior and Local Government, siguro pare-pareho ang concern po namin. We can cooperate, we can help, but not to the extent na kami po ang mangunguna kasi wala ho sa mandato po namin na yung mag-establish.
Itong kasong ito ay may agencies na concerned sa investigatory may investigatory functions kagaya ng PNP o kagaya andyan na nga ang SOCO. So yung suggestion na gusto natin tumulong Brother MP Ras, tayo sa Bangsamoro, kagaya ng sinabi ni Brother Boss MP IQ Iqbal na sa kaya natin bakit natin hindi tulungan ang biktima, yung mga magulang ng mga biktima o saan mang paraan. Pero dito sa investigation po, bakit po hindi natin antayin yung investigation? While at the same time, kung pwede po yung sa resolution na to, pag-usapan po, I would also support the suggestion of MP Sister Maysara na bakit hindi tayo magkaroon ng tayo mismo mag-usap-usap while awaiting or also coordinating with the SOCO or with the PNP, no? Ano bang may tutulong ng DILG, ng MILG, ano bang may tutulong ng MBHTE? Tayo mismo, no? Tayo mismo tayo na sa Bangsamoro government ang mag-uusap tungkol dito sa resolution na to, kung paano natin tulungan. At the same time, paano ba makatulong ang Bangsamoro government doon sa paghahanap ng hustisya sa biktima. And I think having a very effective coordination, sabi nga ni MP Maysara, ni Sister MP Maysara, why don't we have a committee, no? An ad hoc ba diyan na to really look into this at saka para makakatulong naman sa in aid of legislation. Kung may mga mangyayari ganito, ano bang batas ang ating dapat gagawin, isagawa o ipapasa para makatulong sa mga biktima. Hindi po maganda para sa atin, no? Taga-BALM na nangyari ito. Ako really it's very masakit para sa atin na mismo nangyari sa isang universidad ang ganito. So again, yun lang po ang akin. I have no questions, but I just would like to express na my feeling na hindi po maganda, at saka kung pwede po na isang committee sa ating Bangsamoro government ang hawak nito. Kasi pag dinagay po natin sa isang ministry, sa another ministry, nakikita ko we are mentioning around 4 or 5 ministries to do this, then watak-watak po, no? Watak-watak po ang ating magiging action. So pag nag-create po tayo ng isang yung committee o ad hoc committee to do it for us, and what possible assistance na ibibigay ng Bangsamoro government, I would go for that, Mr. Speaker. I would go for that, mga kapatid kong proponents, no? And I would like to manifest my interest to be a co-author of this resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, MP Ali. MP Paisalintago, proceed.
Maraming salamat. With regards to this resolution, lahat naman tayo ay gusto natin na malaman yung katotohanan, yung pagpaslang sa dalawang estudyante na yan, at saka yung sino man ang may kagagawan yan ay we must be brought to justice. Pero may tanong lang ako, Mr. Chairman, sa mga principal authors. Mr. Speaker, the resolution speaks of to support the Mindanao State University regarding the killing, kasi yun ang nakalagay sa title sa resolution. Pwede ko ba malaman, Mr. Speaker, kung alam ng sponsors na ang Mindanao State University ay sa kasalukuyan gumagawa ba sila ng sarili nilang investigasyon? Kasi sa resolution ang sinabi lang, si Brigadier General Ugali lang ang gumawa ng investigation, as stated by the chair, may nandun ng suko. Pero ang Mindanao State University ba gumawa ng sariling investigation? Dahil ang Mindanao State University system, gaya ng UP system, mayroon silang sariling security force that they can also conduct investigation. So tanong ko lang po sa mga sponsors kung alam nila ang MSU system gumawa ng sariling investigation.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, on the very same day, in fact, the very next day nung nangyari yung killings, they were already meeting with one another para makasupport po sa investigation nung current case, yung killings.
Pero sa paano na, Mr. Speaker, sa inyong kaalaman na Mr. Speaker, ano ang status ngayon ng investigation ng MSU system?
wala pa pong updates doon, Mr. Speaker. That's why yung po nilagay natin in case na meron silang ma-achieve na ideas or goals, no? Yung investigation aside from yung sa police investigation. Alam nila na madali silang makalapit kasi open po yung mga ministries natin. Kasi alam nila may resolution tayo na pwede nilang at madali nilang malapitan yung ministry natin sa education, yung MPOS natin, yung MILG natin, pati yung BCH natin. So yun po lang yung pinaka-basic na gusto natin with this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Kaya nga tinanong ko yan, Mr. Speaker, dahil ang resolution ay sinasabing suportahan ng MISU system. So yan nasabi ng sponsor, Mr. Speaker, na may investigation ng MISU. So sa anong para nating isusuportahan ng MISU with the agencies mission? Kasi minention 4 na agencies, MILG, MBHT, Human Rights, MPOS. So anong para nang pwede silang mag-financial, legal, technical, or anong klaseng support ang gusto nating ipaiwatik na ibigay sa MISU system?
Yung limited lang din po sa mandates ng ating mga agency, Mr. Speaker. Kasi for example, sa MBHTE, Mr. Speaker, sabihin natin ang kanilang level dyan is coordination kasi hindi directly under sa atin yung MBHTE. But they can help through policies, joint statements, katulad ng, for example, let us not be afraid of being silent. Let us help the students, or let us help the police, or we should be coordinating with the police. Masin mga ganong statement lang po, Mr. Speaker, that would be appropriate support based on the mandate of the current agency. Ang pinakamalaki po dyan role, Mr. Speaker, would be MPOS and MILG kasi pag umupo po sila sa regional, regional, yung Office and Order Council. The very fact of just asking the police ano na yung status, yun na po yung pinakamalaking tulong. Then, in relation naman sa BHRC, just making it a number on their record at chine-check nila, this year this happened, this should never happen again, is malaking tulong na po. Yun po yung nakikita natin, Mr. Speaker, na appropriate support. Pero kung mayroon pang more than, better po, Mr. Speaker.
So yun ang sinasabi natin na support sa resolution nito na unang-una, ma-push yung kaso, mapadali yung kaso, especially MILG and MPOS is in which they are member of the RPUC, and the general that is investigating the case is a member also of the RPUC. So gustong ma-push ang kaso kasi yun nga, gusto ko maliwanagan kung anong klaseng support ang gusto nating ibigay, kung bibigyan natin ng legal and technical support ang MISU system. So we can agree on that kung anong klaseng legal and technical support ang pwede natin ilagay. So yun pa lang main idea dun sa sa resolution natin. So in that manner, Mr. Speaker, although I agree with the statement with MP Nabil Tan na hintayin natin yung investigation naman and may Sara na mag-interagency. Sa akin, pananaw ko lang, hintayin natin yung investigation dyan. So po yung supportan na lang natin yung ongoing investigation, supportan ng Bangsamoro government ng investigation, and whatever way na masuportan natin ay gawin natin. Kasi sa akin, ang dami kong narinig na version yung pagpatay sa kanila. There are 4 versions bakit sila pinaslang. So dapat malaman talaga ang katotohanan kung bakit nagkaganon for the innocent victim. So yun lang, Mr. Speaker, my clarification questions. Thank you very much to the sponsors.
Thank you. The chair recognizes MP Sultan Rimbang to be followed by Minister Munoz. MP Rimbang, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ang resolution po na ito ay hindi pa ito second justice is a mandate of prosecution office of Department of Justice. Kasi ito, trabaho po ito ng Department of Justice. Baka kasi una, mapangunahan natin sila, Mr. Speaker. Pangalawa, yung sa mandate din ng police, wala tayo siguro nakuha na validating kung anong investigasyon nila dito. Pangit naman na mayroong agencies na nakawak sa mga legal pieces ay baka sabihin na nakikialam tayo, Member of Parliament. Ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa Kotor, kay Rice at saka si Baintan na mawalil kasi tumutugon sila sa mga pangangailangan no ninisisita na Bangsamoro lalo po sa mga anak natin na student. Lahat po tayo may mga anak na estudyante sa MSU. So kailangan din na matugunan na pansin yan. Pero inihiling natin bilang Member of Parliament, Sultan Idrissa Rimbang na dumaan po tayo sa tamang proseso. Siguro para hindi natin mapangunahan yung batas na ginagawa natin, Mr. Speaker. So tanong ko lang, Mr. Speaker, sa proponent, ano ba ang investigation ng ating mga kapulisan para makakuha tayo ng guidelines kasi para maganda po yung ano. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any of the authors would like to respond? It's a legal question. MP Rasmit Mag, would you like to respond to that?
Mr. Speaker, hindi po tayo mangunguna. Actually, nirecognize po natin sa resolution natin yung local efforts. Yung araw po na nangyari yung killings, immediately yung Marawi City, yung local police, pati yung MSU, they did their job. Ang sinasabi lang po natin sa resolution natin, Mr. Speaker, ito yung oras na kinakailangan magkaisa tayo as a Bangsamoro people na sasabihin natin na we don't want these kind of things to happen. Kaya nga, Mr. Speaker, very general yan, appropriate support. Kasi nakikita natin a statement of denying yung culture of silence, yung culture of impunity is enough. Yung pagiging active sa RPOC para itanong kung anong status ng kaso is enough. Then yung pag-note ng BHRC sa situation at continuous niya to fina-follow up sa kapulisan, Mr. Speaker, is enough. Yun po yung pinaka-minimum. Pero yun nga sinasabi natin, at the end of the day, yung executives have their mandate. Then pag lumapit po yung local sa atin, yung LGU, yung police, pati yung MSU, pag sinabi nila, sirs, moms, pwede nyo ba kaming tulungan dito? Then yung mga institutions natin like MBHTE, MPOS, MILG, BHRC, would be very much ready kasi we already informed them that we want these ministries to provide support sa mga kasamahan po natin sa local level. For example, MSU, yung LGU plus yung police po.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, total na malinaw po ang sabi ng ating proponent, Atty. Rasmit Mag from Lumbabeabaw. So nananawagan po ako as a member of Committee on Infos, nandiyan si Minister Munoz, na sana makatulong din tayo, magawa din natin ito na reaction, makikoordinate na lang tayo. Kaya napakabait ni General Ogale, mabait siya na na-assign dito sa atin sa BAM, saka sa MLD, si Narimbo, mag-coordinate na lang para tayo po ay magtulungan para kahit pa paano makaparticipation din ng Bangsamoro government. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Rimbang. Minister Munoz.
Yes, sir. Mr. Speaker, klaro ba? Klaro. Darinig ako.
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, Majority Floor Leader, my respective members of the Parliament, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Regarding sa resolution na ito, sa ngayon po, we are willing to cooperate so we can help and our aspirations. Kaya this day, kanina, nagkaroon po ako ng instructions sa mga kasama natin sa Marawi City to do the initial investigation and coordination with the other security agencies. Yun po. We hope it will bear result in a very, very not too distant future, inshallah, report Parliament. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Minister Munoz.
Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to close the period of debate and interpellation on PR 517. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, it's been seconded. Yes, the Minister Jajuri, you're raising your hand before we act on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would just like to ask one specific question. The author.
Yes, please proceed, Minister Jajuri.
Mr. Speaker, may we know if the authors know the ages of the victims?
They are already in the colleges, ma'am. They're already, actually, they're no longer minors. Nasa 20s na po sila.
Yes, I have seen some articles referring to about the incident, and it seems that they are already in third-year college, and in some articles they are already in their. It says that they're already in their 20s. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm just curious why there's reference to the BHRC as a child ombud if the victims are no longer considered children.
That can be deleted, ma'am, if it's not appropriate. Nilagay lang po for reference na actually baka ang original idea is for the youth, pero kung very specific po, it will not be appropriate.
Okay, Mr. Chief Speaker, that's the single question that I have, and I would raise it again during the period of amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. We will recognize Minister Jajuri in the period of amendment. MP Said Shaikh. Yes, please, sir, you're recognized. Before we act on the motion.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and all my colleagues in the Honorable Chamber, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nakakalungkot po itong nangyayari dahil isang taon na namatay in our tradition. Kung pumatay ka ng isang tao, parang kasalanan mo ay lahat mo pinatay, lahat ang tao sa mundo. So nakakalungkot po kasi nare-remind tayo sa mga previous resolution, especially ng resolution ni Engineer NP Silungan, yung series of incident dyan sa South Cotabato or North Cotabato. Bagong-bago pa yung sinunog sa NCR. Ang tanong, tayo sa autonomous region, mayroon ba tayong ngipin na makukuha natin yung justice? Palagay ko wala. Hanggang lang tayo dito kasi kaya nakakalungkot po ito. Alanus, itong nangyari sa atin. Ito, ngayon, nagko-copy yung perpetrator sa nangyari sa dalawang estudyante. Pero ano bang, mayroon bang solusyon? Mayroon bang solusyon na nakikita? Parang wala, para kung nakikita. Thank you very much sa concern natin. Dahil nakikita ko na talagang nasa puso natin itong nangyayari. During ang nakikita ko ito, alam natin ito, reminder lang ito. Mga kapatid natin sa MNLF, mayroon silang proposed regional police. Tayo sa MNLF, mayroon ding regional police. Saan yun? So, kaya mahirap itong situation natin. Kailangan natin yung brotherhood based on Islamic perspective. Yung panalangin natin ng Allah dahil malapit na natin iwanan itong mundo. Na yung hindi natapos, itutuloy nila yon. Kaya, alhamdulillah sa moral governance natin, kaya itong natitirang life natin ay maging peace doon. Kayong mga brother namin, mga lawyer, nagpapasalamat kami sa inyo dahil alam niyo yan. At saka, whatever potential you have, that is the God-given gift na in the day of resurrection, accountable tayo dyan. Kaya kami, papasalamat kami na in-observe namin kayo. At saka sa akin, Allah knows na nare-remind ako doon sa mga previous resolution na similar na pangyayari. Kaya thank you very much ako. Talaga, very supportive ako sa mga ganyan. So, layo kalipulaw napsan ilaws aha. So, you are not accountable beyond your capacity. Ganyan lang po. So, minsan naman ay thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, na napapagbigyan niyo kami sa ganitong reaksyon na lang po hanggang. So, sana po the complete justice system ay ma-impress. Dahil sa ngayon hindi pa natin nakita. Yun lang po. Sorry po. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, MP Said Shaikh, Majority Leader.
Yes.
There's a standing motion to close the period of debate in interpellation. It has been seconded. The period in interpellation on PR 517 is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendment.
Period of amendment is hereby open. Majority Leader,
Yes,
may we request for a 15-minute break before we will proceed with the amendment for the Asar prayer? Don't you want to? Or should we continue?
We continue because there's one resolution intended to move it.
Okay, but I would like to call for a 2-minute or 1 minute
We
break.
will request the members of the parliament to prepare the proposed amendment so that we can do this
So those
fast, Mr. Speaker.
those MPs who have already registered their signified their intent to propose an amendment, MP Jajuri, MP Maysara Damdaman Latif, and just type your names on the chat box. I'll call for 1 minute suspension. Session suspended for 1 minute. first recognize Minister Jajuri, and then to be followed by MP Damdaman Latif. Minister Jajuri, please proceed with your proposed amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to amend the portion of the bill, specifically, the resolution, the sixth whereas clause, Mr. Speaker, to read as follows. Whereas section 20 and then delete N22, and then continue up to the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, delete shall, and put instead the following phrase, has the following powers and functions, comma, among others, colon. Has the following powers and functions. Has the following. Comma, among others. And then colon. Colon, not. And then delete the whole of section 22.
For the record, Minister Jajuri, you are proposing an amendment by deletion.
And some changes in the language with respect to the first paragraph, Mr. Speaker. But essentially, yes, the intent is to take out section 22 of the Bangsamoro Administrative Code.
So section 20 is being proposed by Minister Jajuri to be removed or deleted from the resolution.
Yes,
That's
Mr.
all, Minister Jajuri, before we ask the proponent to respond. Would that be all, Minister Jajuri?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, but I don't see in the screen that's shared right now the deletion of section 22.
Can you highlight section 22?
So first of all, Mr. Speaker, I see that there's a strike through on the word section 20. That should not be the case. Okay. Sa harap po ay tama po yun. Delete that. Yan.
So is that it?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any of the principal authors, are they amenable or do they accept the proposal, proposed amendment of MP Raisa Jajuri?
Yes,
MP
Mr.
Ras,
Speaker.
please.
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Speaker.
you accept.
Yes, because that's appropriate actually, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. So the amendment is adopted. MP Maysara Damdaman Latif, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my amendment would be in the dispositive portion, in the resolved part. Resolved, as it is hereby resolved, that an interagency task force is hereby created, consisting of the following: Ministry of Basic, Higher, Technical Education, comma, okay. There should be a colon after the word following. Okay, so Ministry of Basic Higher Technical Education, Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, the Ministry of Public Order and Safety, and Ministry of Interior and Local Government to provide appropriate support to Mindanao State University and other local institutions in bringing justice to the families of slain students Sinar Omar and Hamza Raouf, and thereby strengthening the peace and order and safety of MSU. Paki-change na lang yung peace sa public order and safety.
May also like to suggest
Strengthening the public order and safety. Public order and safety.
may I also suggest
Period. Of
suggest to the good lady from Tugaya
Yes,
to
Mr.
include
Speaker.
MSU, the word system after
MSU
MSU.
system.
Yes, so that it would cover all campuses as well.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I agree.
Thank you.
Public order and safety of MSU system. Period, Mr. Speaker. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further amendment? Wait. Yes, the gentleman from Sulu, the one of the proponents.
Mr.
Are you
Speaker,
amenable to the accept? Do you accept?
Before I would just like to modify the word. I believe that we should spell out the word interagency task force. We should not as a common noun. Kasi when we talk about ITF, we are referring to the IATF, which manages the COVID situation. It should be small letter. Small letter.
Would it be
Interagency
more?
task force. Just to be precise on this, IATF refers to the one, I believe. In this case, interagency task force is different.
I'm just throwing my mind.
Chairman.
Yes, I just like to suggest, not just trying to send my thoughts on the air. Would it be more proper if we use the term coordinating ministry, ministries coordinating ministries instead of interagency task force?
It depends on the proponent. I would just like to tweak that
I
part.
think yes, I believe that because this would entail separate budget for the meetings and etc. Yes, DS Tan. DS Tan, please continue. DS Tan, please proceed. Maybe you are also with my suggestion.
Doon lang dito lang muna ako dito sa pinag-uusapan amendments. Pwede bang ad hoc na lang? Kasi pag nakuha na ipso facto, wala na pagka na-achieve na yung purpose. Pwede, instead of interagency task force, sa bagay, temporary rin. Pero ang ad hoc is better kwan siguro.
So, Mr. Speaker, we submit that an ad hoc task force na lang siguro, wag ng interagency. Ad hoc task force para
hindi siya lingering dyan.
Yeah, because if you have the interagency task force, automatically the chair would be the chief minister.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I submit that an ad hoc task force, created consisting of the following: Ministry of Basic Higher Technical Education as head, Mr. Speaker, because I believe as chair, because Minister Iqbal a while ago manifested that it could be the lead agency for this, being MSU being under his direct supervision, Mr. Chair, under the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
So, MP Ras, since you have been accepting all these amendments, would you like to accept?
Just some clarification, Mr. Speaker. tama naman na we are doing this. We are establishing a ad hoc task force to make this one stronger. Second is, but all of their assistance would be limited or should be within their mandates, Mr. Speaker, right? Kasi baka we will be burdening them too
Yes,
much.
Mr. Speaker, that is the import of each and every ministry have their own mandates. They cannot go beyond their mandates, Mr. Speaker.
Okay,
So
as long as since
it is
it's
really
yes, we accept.
And for the record also, we are not encroaching the mandate of the investigative agencies.
yes, Mr. Speaker. It is just a support
We are
institution.
not
Mr.
taking custody of the actual
Yes, Mr.
case.
Speaker. That is
Alright.
why the word used is to provide appropriate support.
Thank you. We just
Mr.
like
Speaker,
that into record.
Mr.
Yes,
Speaker,
MP Faisal Tago.
can I have a comment?
Yes, MP Tago.
With this amendment, with your respect, Mr. Speaker, we are creating another resolution. Because our resolution is to support the MSU system, not to create a task force. If we want to create a task force or any kind of task force, we should create another resolution for that matter, defining the powers and function of the task force. Because we are creating one resolution and two subjects, Mr. Speaker. That is my concern, Mr. Speaker.
Majority under
Kasi, dapat papalitan na natin ng title, Mr. Speaker. If we create, kasi sinabi doon sa body ng resolution, there is an ongoing investigation already by Brigadier General Ogali. So ang resolution natin to support the MSU Mindanao State University and other, we will not create task force as separate investigation. Kaya nga ang premise natin, Mr. Speaker, the resolution is there is already an ongoing investigation and we will support that. If we are creating another task force investigative body by the BARM, we will create another resolution for that matter. And we will define what are the powers and functions of that task force.
Mr. Speaker.
In that resolution.
Mr. Speaker, I
concur with MP Tago.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, yes, but before I
Yan ang sinasabi ko po,
to-
kung pwede sana mag-accept ang author, i-simplify na lang ang reso. Simplify na lang ang reso to immediate, yung title, pero pati ng contents, baguhin. Simplify na lang ang reso to assist or to expedite the investigation.
Investigation.
Yan na lang. Pero overhaul eh. Huwag papayag ang author.
Overall ng resolution yan.
Gentlemen,
Yan lang ang sa akin. Tama si Popoy.
Thank you, DSMR. Thank you, DSMR. Just to simplify the
I
manifestation.
concur with MP Tago, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, just to simplify the manifestation of MP Faisalin Tago, he is actually citing the two subject matter or the Rydell rule under the House rules. That is, there will be no two subject matter under one resolution. Similarly with a law, with the bill. So what is the majority leader's pleasure on this particular citing by MP Tago, the particular rules under the House rules, citing the two rule violations, two subject rule violations?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. First of all, this resolution was referred to the business for the day, and then this resolution, Mr. Speaker, we can propose amendment to amend the title, the body, or in the reserve clause, Mr. Speaker. So if the amendment will be accepted, it will also change the title of the resolution, Mr. Speaker. If the good MP Tago would like to reflect the amendment in the reserve clause, they may also carry this matter to the title of the resolution, Mr. Speaker. Since this resolution has been treated as a simple resolution, and we can discuss it, the plenary body has the power to discuss and in fact to approve resolution during the deliberations. We are now acting as a whole, Mr. Speaker, and we can act on the particular resolution.
We need to amend the title also.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
To reflect the amendments in the body
To
as well as
reconcile with the number of amendments in
Yes,
the
Mr.
body of the
Speaker.
resolution. Would that
Yes.
satisfy MP Tago?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Would that satisfy MP Tago?
Yes, the resolve clause should be embodied in the title, but should be
Yes.
consistent with the title of the bill, of the resolution.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
Mr. Speaker.
okay. The matter is settled now. So we continue with the period of amendment. Yes, do
Body
you have
muna.
further amendment?
Mr. Speaker, body muna bago title.
Yes,
Lasang
Stan, we will
title.
first.
Yes.
Yes, Stan, we will first deal with the body, then later on we will proceed with the title to conform with all the amendments.
Thank you.
Produced in
Simplify
the
na
draft.
lang, simplify. Para
Mr. Speaker, if I may.
Yes, the good minority leader, MP Liza Lamia, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As one of the co-authors of the resolution, Mr. Speaker, just to clarify on the intent and purpose of this simple resolution, Mr. Speaker, when we drafted this, the simple aim was not to create a task force or not to conduct an investigation, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the resolution, because there is already an investigation being conducted, MSU is conducting an internal investigation. The Philippine National Police is also conducting the investigation. What we are doing here, Mr. Speaker, is we are not urging the BARM government and these agencies to conduct an investigation. That's the first one. But we are urging the government of the day through these ministries to what we call take proactive measures, or under international human rights law, we call that as temporary special measures, by providing support. So it is just a resolution calling our government, regional government, to provide appropriate support to the MSU system. So we will not be, it's also not going to burden the ministries, Mr. Speaker. But if the pleasure and the wish of the majority and the government of the day is to add to their responsibility and create a task force, Mr. Speaker, if that is the wish of the majority, then we would have to have an overhaul of the entire resolution, because if it is already a task force or an ad hoc task force, we would have to outline the procedure on how they're going to conduct their work, who are the agencies involved, what are their responsibilities, how will they meet, which agencies are they going to coordinate with. So that's going to complicate matters, Mr. Speaker. While we agree with the good MP Maysara Latif, and I'd like to thank her for suggesting this, but however, we would have to have another resolution that would outline all of this. But although this is also a good thing, as a reminder to the government of the day, that these are the things that you can do after we pass this simple resolution, that you can set up on their own, Mr. Speaker, the government of the day can set up an ad hoc task force and provide for the guidelines on how the task force will be doing its job. So for us, Mr. Speaker,
ask the good minority. Yes, let me ask the good minority leader. I'm sorry, apologies if I have to interrupt. Is this her explanation? Is this a way of rejecting the proposed amendment of MP Latif, being one of the principal authors?
Mr.
Do you
Speaker.
reject, in a way, the proposed amendment? Because earlier, Rasmit accepted, I believe.
Yes, Mr.
This
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the proponents, all of us, the co-authors and the main proponent, have accepted the amendments of MP Maysara. However, because of what has been raised by the rest of the majority MPs here, that we would have to change everything, we would have to include everything that I mentioned, Mr. Speaker, all the things that you need in an ad hoc task force need to be included in the resolution. If that's not going to be a burden to the majority, Mr. Speaker, we do not have any problem, Mr. Speaker. We can continue amending the body and adding all of those things that I mentioned, Mr. Speaker. But if the wish of the majority is to give the discretion to the government of the day headed by the chief minister to create its own ad hoc task force based on the resolution that the simple resolution that we will pass, we are also okay with that, Mr. Speaker. So it depends now on the majority, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Liza, for that manifestation. Again, the majority leader has settled the issue cited by MP Paisalintago that we can proceed with this resolution provided that the proposed amendments in the body draft would reflect the title. Does that mean also, so in a way, it's going to be technically substitute resolution if that's the case, but nobody really asked questions.
Mr. Speaker.
5 seconds lang. 5 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, recall lang, reply lang doon sa rejoinder lang doon sa statement earlier.
Yes, Tan is recognized.
I think the CMP not to depend. CMP, I think from the discussion earlier, CMP Maysara came to this dahil sa dami ng, it's not the majority kwan. Sa dami ng agencies involved. So doon siya nag-isip na mag-task force na lang sa dami. Pero it did not come from the majority. It came from the original resolution as presented earlier. So, ganon. Kung may task force, magdi-define nga ng kanyang function yan bawat agency.
Mr. Speaker.
So, kaya sabi ko, kwan na lang. Ay simplify na lang at pati subject matter in general terms na lang sasabihin yung purpose. Kasi na-discuss na natin yung ano ba sa MBHT pwede gawin. So alam na ng mga agencies ang MPOS ano bang pwedeng gawin. Mag-remind lang pala. So not that complicated. So simple resolution, overhaul talaga. Pero hindi yung ad hoc na yan, yung task force na yan was a result of the earlier discussion sa dami ng agency. So kahit ako ayoko rin ng pero kung tailor fit na lang kaya naisip yung yung task force ni Maysara kaya na ako ng ad hoc para hindi naman permanent kasi nga budget yan.
Mr. Speaker, there's a manifestation, Mr. Speaker. Following the thoughts of the minority floor leader and MP Nabiltan, the enumerations of the ministries, yun naman po ang government of the day. Can we propose instead of mentioning the names of the ministry, just urging the government of the day to provide appropriate support kasi kasama na rin yung mga ministry na yun sa government of the in general na lang as suggested by MP Nabiltan.
May I remind the body that we are under the period of amendment. We can discuss a specific issue based on the amendment that is being put forward in the plenary, rather than go in circles. If we are settled the issue of the two subject matter policy of the House under the House rules, then we proceed with the majority leader's wishes that we amend this resolution. We take the discussion by piecemeal. If there's a amendment by MP Maysara, then we will deal with that amendment. If it's acceptable to the proponent, then it's acceptable unless objected to by any of the members. So, yes, MP Maysara, you have the floor.
Let us go back to the resolution. So if the resolution, if the amendment complicates the resolution, so much so that it entails budgeting and additional implementing rules and regulation for the creation of an ad hoc task force, then I am obliged, Mr. Speaker, to remove the words that an ad hoc task force is hereby created consisting of the following. So instead, urging, the original word of the resolution is urging the Ministry of Basic Education, Bangsamoro Human Rights. Yan na po yun. Yan yung original word. So we will just go back to that word and then maintain na lang to provide appropriate support. Kasi
Yes.
dinagdag lang natin yung word na yun. So balik na lang tayo sa original formulation.
Yes, yes. Simple resolution.
Mr. Speaker, if we may respond
So
to
I withdraw my proposal to create an interagency task force and instead go back to the original formulation, urging the following ministries to provide appropriate support and also not just to get justice, but also strengthen the public order and safety of MSU system.
Thank
as
you, MP Maysara.
propounded a while ago.
Thank you,
Mr.
MP Maysara, for that humility. So the motion by the main proponent of this proposed resolution is to withdraw
Yes, Mr.
her
Speaker,
resolution.
and just go back to the original formulation with the additional inputs that I provided,
Okay.
highlighted all in yellow.
Thank you, MP Maysara.
And also, Mr. Speaker, there's a correction according to one of the authors here that Baloy is not part of Lanao del Sur, but Lanao del Norte.
That is correct.
So we have to mention it there in the first page, the second whereas clause. Is this formulation acceptable for that, Mr. Speaker?
So MP Ras or MP Liza Lamia, the good minority leader, is it acceptable to you?
Mr. Speaker, if I may answer.
Yes,
Mr.
the good minority leader, MP Liza Lamia, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you very much, MP Maysara. Actually, Mr. Speaker, if MP Maysara Latif would like to amend her amendment, not just going back to the original language of the penultimate paragraph, but adding the words that she added, like for example, to provide appropriate support instead of just support. Instead of just to support, add to provide appropriate support. In the blue one, yes, to provide appropriate support to MSU and other local institutions in bringing justice to the families of slain student Zainal Omar and Hamza Rauf, and their
Recording in
Source.
progress.
Remove the word Lanao del Sur doon po sa taas in the first whereas clause. From Taraca, Lanao del Sur, and Baloy, Lanao del Norte. After the word Baloy would be Lanao del Norte. Kama, Lanao del Norte. That's all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Maysara. Any further? Yeah, is it accepted to the proponents? MP minority leader, is it
Mr.
accepted?
Speaker, may I just add in the last dispositive portion that it is also coming from MP Hatimil Hassan in the last whereas clause para ma-attribute din po sa kanya. Doon sa pinaka-last dispositive. Ayun sa last, doon sa aking amendment na accepted. MP Maysara and Hatimil Hassan.
Please, Secretariat, please indicate that the proposed resolutions are coming
Deputy Speaker
Yes.
Hatimil Hassan po.
Are coming from MP Maysara and the Deputy Speaker Hatimil Hassan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendment.
There's a motion to close the period of amendment. Is there any objection? Hearing none, period of amendment is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval and adoption of this proposed resolution.
So on behalf of the entire membership
Subject
of
to
the
style,
Parliament,
Mr. Speaker, subject to style.
Subject to style.
On behalf of the Speaker and the entire Parliament of the Bangsamoro people, we would like to extend our deepest sympathies to the victim and to seek justice, immediate justice for the victims. And we condemn this gruesome act of crime happened inside the Mindanao State University in Marawi City. PR 517 is hereby adopted as amended. Minority
Yes.
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are now on proposed resolution 521, Mr. Speaker. I have an omnibus motion, Mr. Speaker, to dispense with the period of debate and interpellation and amendment, then I further move for the approval of the same, Mr. Speaker.
Second.
There's an omnibus vote.
Second.
There's an omnibus motion. The motion has been duly seconded. PR 521 as introduced by MP Taman Latif, extending gratitude to His Excellency. Seconded. So PR 521 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, what is the pleasure? Yes, what is the pleasure of MP Mangudadato?
The
I'm sorry,
proposed
MP Mangudadato,
resolution,
you have to talk slowly.
it seems that not all members.
I'm sorry, you have to talk slowly.
Mr.
Somebody
Speaker.
facing you. You have to talk slowly. What is it?
Lahat daw na membro.
Because of the internal discussion,
Oh, yes, okay.
All the
I have
members
a
of
very
the
bad
Parliament
idea.
would be
Just to put
But
on
anyway,
record, I
Mr.
would
Speaker.
Yes, we will abide by the request of the good minority, deputy majority leader. In fact, I would like to ask the secretariat to put into record, no, to read the title, because this is the last resolution that we will adopt. In fact, no. So again, for the record, secretariat, please read the title and make sure that all members are will be authors. Would that be acceptable, of course, to the main proponent, MP Maysara Latif? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So please, for the record.
Proposed resolution number 521, a resolution commending and expressing utmost gratitude to His Excellency President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for certifying to the necessity of the immediate enactment of House Bill number 10121, entitled An Act Resetting the First Regular Elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the purpose Section 13, Article 16 of Republic Act number 11054, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Authors are MPs Maysara D. Latif, Aida M. Silongan, Bainon G. Caron, Ziaur Rahman Alonto Adjong, Jamila D. Ramos, Eddie M. Ali, Omar Yasser C. Sema, Nabil A. Tan, Hatimil E. Hasan, Susana S. Anayatin, Mohager M. Iqbal, Muslimin A. Jakilan, Abdul Wahab M. Pak, and Malik A. Mantawil.
Thank you. This is proposed resolution number 521 as requested and agreed upon and accepted by the principal author. All members of the Parliament, all 78 members of the Parliament are now included or considered as the author or co-author of proposed resolution number 521 with title being read by the Secretary General. So, directed and approved, adopted. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there being no other business.
Chair, Majority Floor Leader.
Yes.
Other matters.
Yes, okay, so for the other matters, we recognize the distinguished gentleman from Cotabato City, the Deputy Speaker Omar Sema.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you, Majority Floor Leader. As to the other matters, Mr. Speaker, Majority Floor Leader, I would like to personally convey my congratulations to the Intergovernmental Infrastructure Development Board for the smooth transfer of Cotabato City District Engineering Office to the Ministry of Public Works of the BARM. I personally congratulate the Chief Minister as one of the chairs of the board of the Intergovernmental Relations Body. Of course, the Secretary Sani Dominguez, and of course, Secretary Carlito Galvez for facilitating the smooth transition and transfer. Of course, I would like to thank also and congratulate the Minister, our colleague, MP Edward Guerra, for the success in the transfer of the district office to the Ministry of Public Works and Highways. And of course, lastly but not the least, the two leaders of the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Secretary of Public Works and Highways, Mark Villar, and the Undersecretary Emil Sadain for facilitating the transfer of the District Engineering Office. Mr. Speaker, the transfer of the Cotabato City District Engineering Office is has been long time coming to us. It is an important milestone in our exercise to right to self-determination and autonomy, because it now brings Cotabato City under the full jurisdiction of the Ministry of Public Works and Highways, and therefore we now have direct control over infrastructure and public works in Cotabato City. And congratulations to all of us. Congratulations to the Chief Minister, and congratulations to the Ministry of Public Works and Highways. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to associate myself with the manifestation of DS Omar. Session is suspended until tomorrow at 1:30 in the afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.